Tonight on Metro News. Could Myrtle Rust hit the Garden City? There's a new way to use your Metro card which involves exercise. And we check out a golf competition with a twist. Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to your local news bulletin brought to you by the students of the New Zealand Broadcasting School.
First up tonight, Christchurch can't be complacent. That's the message from those trying to eradicate Myrtle Rust, a disease threatening some of our native trees. It's only just struck the North Island so far, but it does pose a risk to the Garden City. George Berry joins us now with more on the story. George.
Officials have always feared Myrtle Rust would cross the Tasman, and now that it's up north, they're saying there's a possibility that it could reach Christchurch. Now, Botanical Garden staff say that they are on Myrtle Watch. That means that they're checking native plants to see that if they could get the disease as well.
Checking for signs of Myrtle Rust.
When the fungus is well established, you sometimes see different sort of damage on the leaf, which is no longer the spores. But
this is what he's looking for. A fungal disease that's infected nearly 40 properties across the North Island.
if the authorities are unsuccessful eradicating it, then it might spread to Canterbury, and then we need to be on the alert to make sure that we're able to handle it as best as possible.
The Ministry of Primary Industries is in charge of containing the spread.
So I don't want to be alarmist here because there are a huge amount of unknowns. But because of the potential severity of those impacts, it's important that people do remain vigilant, whether they're in Christchurch or whether they're on the North Island, wherever. This is a disease that is going to affect the country, and we do need the public to play their role.
Myrtle Rust's arrival in this country was no surprise.
It was just probably a matter of time before the wind brought it over here to New Zealand.
If the fungal disease were to reach the Garden City, it would harm some of our most loved native plants, and the likelihood of it spreading is possible. Pohutukawa, Manuka and even Fijoa are among the trees which can be affected. Even the rata, one of the Botanic Garden's biggest trees.
On a world scale and on a sort of landscape scale for the whole of Christchurch, we don't really want to anticipate that.
If you think you may have spotted Myrtle Rust, take a leaf out of John's book.
Don't touch it, because as soon as you touch it, another way of spreading Myrtle Rust is not so much on the wind, but it can be spread on our clothes, it can be spread on our hands.
The fungal disease may be microscopic, but its potential for damage is huge.
Now, if you think you've found a plant that's been affected by Myrtle Rust, at home or anywhere else, let authorities know immediately. They want people to reach the MPI hotline. They'll then send a team in to try and contain it. Now, if it spreads, there is a chance that it will never be eradicated.
Thanks, George.
Well, it's been 3 months since the Port Hills fires tore through Christchurch's Adventure Park. It had only been running for 8 weeks before over 2/3 of it was destroyed by the blaze. Brooke Sullivan reports.
It's a big and dangerous job, clearing hazards after the fire. This is what they were left with: burnt trees and ruined trails. Just part of the mess the multi-million-dollar adventure park has to fix up.
The logging operation is going ahead, so they're just getting all the trees down and out. Then we'll be able to get in and reassess or assess what's happened in there and come up with a better plan as to where we're going from here.
The buildings and the chairlift survived, but over 600 acres of pine trees were destroyed. It's clear to see there's a lot of work to be done, but the Christchurch Adventure Park are hoping to reopen by summer. No one's saying what the rebuild will cost, but they're hoping to attract big numbers like they did when they opened in December.
Well, we had 50,000 people through in the first 2 months of operating, so that's a lot of people coming to Christchurch or the local people also. But getting tourists in here and enjoying the surroundings, enjoying the park, enjoying the activity.
Those who bought season tickets can't wait.
It's a shame that it has to close so soon, only after 2 months, but really looking forward to it opening up again. It'll be great.
It'll be at least 7 months before the park's back in action. The trails may be the same, but they'll be painted on a different canvas. Brooke Sullivan, Metro News.
Christchurch is following the lead of major European cities, and soon you'll be able to use your Metro card to ride a bike. The council and ECAN are rolling out the bike trail over the next 2 months, but is Christchurch ready? Laura Cunningham finds out.
Move over buses. Cycling is becoming Christchurch's newest form of public transport. The 25 Spark bikes dotted around our CBD and hired via an app are part of a bigger picture.
For the last 2 years we've been running the Spark Bike pilot on the streets, and that's been about seeing if people in Christchurch would use bike share.
And we did. In 2 years, these two-wheelers have done 10,000 trips, 75% of them by locals. Now the idea's been taken further, with the trial of 2 smart bikes that are unlocked with your Metro card. The first half hour is free, and then your card's charged $4 per hour.
And I think the city's at a really good point now where it could become a really good complement to what's out there in the city, a way to add vibrancy and give people another transport option in the city.
An expert fresh from studying cycle safety in the States says we're onto something.
This is actually really innovative technology, so we'll actually be up among the world leaders in terms of what technology we offer with our bike share.
A local cyclist is convinced an increase in biking will lead to much needed better quality cycleways.
Really, if you cycle every day, it's only a matter of time until you get hit by a car. And then when the road narrows down and turns into a corner and whatever, that cycle lane just vaporises.
With 150 million already being channelled into major cycleways, experts say it's definitely the way of the future, and drivers should have a go at bike share.
As soon as we grow this number of people on bikes, then there's actually a better positive effect.
1,000 cities worldwide use bike share, but this is the first time they've hit the streets in the Southern Hemisphere. The bikes will be trialled in the Christchurch Council for the next 2 months. Laura Cunningham, Metro News.
Well, from 2 wheels to 4, a Christchurch teenager has slid and turned his way to becoming the junior world champion in a relatively unknown sport. Taylor Cook holds the top spot in downhill longboarding, and as George Berry discovers, it sure got his wheels turning.
A plank of wood, 4 wheels and a few mates is all it took for Taylor Cook to find his feet in this extreme sport.
It all started about 4 or 5 years ago for me. Just a whole bunch of friends introduced me pretty much and just got hooked on it straight away.
Downhill longboarding has even taken the 17-year-old to different parts of the globe to compete.
I've gone to like Australia and Philippines, South Korea, and I've met some amazing people, seen some like amazing places.
And it doesn't stop there. The next part of the Junior World Champs is being held in Europe next month, and for Taylor there's one main thing he needs to work on.
More stability, and trying to get him to slide wherever we can as fast as possible.
It's roads like these in Hunsbury where Taylor practices for upcoming competitions, flying down hills at nearly twice the legal speed limit.
Over 100k, average speed we usually go about 70, still pretty fast.
His mum is always on edge come race day.
I am pretty proud. It's always reassuring, firstly, that he gets through a race uninjured, which is probably my first concern. I'm really happy to see that.
As well as winning, he's keen to be a role model.
For me growing up, looking up to people, I want to be someone that gets looked up to.
And with the way he's going, he's bound to get wheels spinning for kids in the future. George Berry, Metro News.
Coming up on Metro News, we catch up with the head of the Christchurch plant gang, and there's trouble in the turtle trade.
My name's Alistair Coburn. I'm the station producer for Classic FM. So we're in London. We've got 8 radio stations and 2 TV stations here. So I've been doing this job about 2 years. Got a phone call while I was in the middle of Europe saying you've got a job interview in London. Worked out quite well. London's the greatest city on earth, I think. There's so much to do here. It's just such a vibrant place. My first year in the UK, I think we saw about 10 different countries. 2 weeks ago, we were in Wales. A week before that, we were in Prague. It's really amazing. I mean, Classic FM, we've got 5.3 million listeners every week, so it's more than the entire New Zealand population. I'll be writing promos, writing trails, writing imaging, writing commercials as well. I got nominated for a Sony Radio Award for a promotional campaign which I worked on. The skills that I've got from my study, they really stand up. It taught me a lot about how the entire radio industry works, like from sales to production to on-air to writing. Once you're done, you've got the internship, you get straight into a job, and from there you're off. I mean, the world's your oyster, basically.
Welcome back. The Christchurch earthquake stole entire neighbourhoods from our city. Now ideas are being put forward on what to do with 600 hectares of barren red zone land in the eastern suburbs. The deadline for proposals has just passed, and Ella Stokes joins us now with details on what could be ahead for the area. Ella.
Regenerate Christchurch is in charge of earthquake recovery. It called for ideas about what to do with the barren land around the areas of Aranui and Burwood, land the size of 600 rugby fields. Now one group wants to use just a small part of this land to help educate people about food and living sustainably. A vast bare expanse, empty space where houses once stood. Now plenty of brainpower is being put into what comes next for this land. Living Fields wants to create a 50-hectare hub to teach the story of food.
We hope that it will have education facility from preschool to pre-diploma, but it'll also be able to umbrella organisations that are more community orientated and want to educate people about food and sustainable living.
With 30 years in the education sector, Robin saw this as a perfect use of the red zoned land.
We've discovered a need around it, and that kids have lots of fun, they're much more aware of where their food comes from, and ultimately I'd love to see this to be a social enterprise. I'd love this to be a place where all citizens can learn about food.
A neighbouring preschool is keen on the idea.
So I think that not only would it be great for this community who've been through so much, but also for other communities to actually come over here and be involved in it.
And the children agree.
I like cows. We get to see the animals.
Christchurch's Hagley Park is one of the third largest city parks in the world, and the red zone is 4 times the size of it. Living Fields is just one of many ideas that's been put forward to regenerate Christchurch of what could happen with a small part of this land. Other ideas include a recreational water park, walkways and cycleways.
There's lots of different programs out there, lots of different proposals, and it would be great if everybody got in and had their say.
We'll get a chance to look through those ideas for this land at an exhibition in August and September. While Nikki Wagner's calling the red zone a game changer for Christchurch, of course, all of these ideas are going to cost money. Some proposals are coming with funding behind them and others are going to need community funding. The next step is public consultation, evaluation, and we should have a draft plan by early next year.
Thanks, Ella.
Imagine looking after 60 abandoned turtles in your own home. Well, that's exactly what one Christchurch woman is doing. Katie Scotcher went along to meet the turtles and the person caring for them.
Mozzie, Miracle and Valletta, 3 of the many turtles living with Donna Moot in her Christchurch home.
I have 58 turtles here and another 33 turtles out hibernating in a pond in Fernside.
Donna runs Turtle Rescue, a charitable trust established to rehome and rehabilitate abandoned pets.
Turtle Rescue involves taking in turtles that are found, strays, so I support the SPCA with that role, and then there are many turtles that people just don't realise the implications of owning a turtle.
And by implications, she means they're high maintenance and live for at least 50 years. A lot of the turtles Donna receives are former pets and often arrive with serious injuries or deformities, which is a consequence of poor education when adopting a pet.
This is Darcy. Hello, boy. So as you can see, he's quite deformed.
She thinks Darcy's tank was too small. It's left him with one lung and his own special style.
He came here for the weekend and he made a really good effort to eat and swim, and I thought, okay, you're giving it a go, I'll give it a go.
Through social media, she's finding new homes and educating people.
I have the website that I maintain, which is a lot of information for people about turtle care.
Donna's main message: know your stuff before committing to a pet that may outlive you. Katie Scotcher, METRONEWS.
Hidden in the residential red zone are thousands of fruit trees that foragers are making the most of, but they need care and attention to remain healthy and productive. Annabelle joins us in the studio with Liv Warsnop, the woman who's taking on the task. Annabelle.
Thanks, Joey. It sounds like a massive task for just one person. Are you doing it by yourself?
No, I'm not. I'm the main instigator, bringing all the people together, but we do have a large gang of people who come intermittently to help out.
Yeah? And what is Plant Gang?
Plant Gang is a project that I started 5 years ago. I saw a real need for the voices of nature to be articulated post-quake. And so I started by doing a lot of projects in the central city, guerrilla gardening, creating gardens in the empty lots. But it's a way of thinking as well. It's about reconciling the relationship between nature and between us.
And what made you start wanting to look after the trees?
They're our lifeline. They're our food. They are our oxygen. They feed the wildlife. And they're a really beautiful legacy. They've been growing in the backyards of people's houses for generations. And they retain that link if we continue to look after them. It's the most obvious thing to do.
And so what is it that you're actually doing for the trees?
So at the moment, Plant Gang has been doing guerrilla gardening. We've transitioned to guerrilla caring. And so it's looking after the fruit trees using permaculture and organically minded techniques. At the moment, we are mulching around the fruit trees. Eventually we'll be pruning, we'll be teaching people how to forage properly, we'll be managing them in terms of their disease and nutrients. Yeah.
And I mean, where do you get your resources? Is it kind of expensive?
Well, the thing about looking after nature is that nature doesn't actually create waste. Nature provides everything it needs to look after nature. And we have access to so many materials that we can use to look after the fruit trees. There's grass, there's straw, there's manure, there's seaweed all around us. So it is effectively free. The most expensive resource is actually our time.
Do you think this is something that the council should really be doing, or are you happy to help?
Well, yeah, the council should be doing it, but it's more that there's things the council should not be doing. The trees are currently being sprayed with toxic chemicals, and that should be eliminated. But yeah, we really need to reanalyse the way that we are looking after our landscapes in the urban environment.
Okay, thank you very much, Liv. Back to you, Talia and Joey.
Thanks, Annabelle.
After the break on Metro News, we'll tell you how the weather's looking for the rest of the week, and we visit a golf competition with a twist.
My name's Chris Nichol and I'm head of production for Capital FM Network, doing TV, I'm doing online, I'm doing event audio, and I'm working with a team of 8 people. We make everything, every single sweeper, ident, thing that says what radio station you're listening to, what TV station you're watching. Broadcasting school put me in a scenario where I had to figure things out. Hands-on learning, getting stuck in, teaching yourself stuff. It also prepared me for the sorts of people that you come in contact with in media and how to deal with situations, especially high stressful situations. The great thing was the tutors were really encouraging and really helpful. They were like senior members of staff in a real radio station. Nowhere else will you get hands-on learning that actually lands you in a real radio station doing real work as part of the course. I have freelanced at some fantastic places and made some really good friends just from being able to turn up and be nice and polite and professional. All of those things is what broadcasting school was really good at versing you in. Being in London, it's a melting pot of creativity and ideas and people. I'm doing stations in Iceland, Germany, America, New Zealand still, which is wonderful. I can't say I expected it to be quite like this, but it's awesome.
Welcome back. The Lions' highly anticipated visit to Christchurch is just days away, and the city has a new fan zone to cater for those wanting to watch the match on the big screen. But as Tom Peterson reports, some are questioning the cost.
Christchurch's CBD hasn't been the same since the earthquakes, but the council believes a fan zone for the Lions tour will bring life back into it. It's setting up an alcohol-free space here with a big screen for 3 All Blacks tests and the Crusaders match. The idea is being promoted by the tourism industry.
It's about getting people in there to explore the city. There's so much going on, there's things popping up all the time.
The zone's costing $60,000 for 4 games. The City Council's head of events says there's space for 2,000 fans and the area will be well patrolled by security. But does it have the backing of locals? What do you think about a $60,000 fan zone going in here?
Money could probably be spent better
somewhere else?
I think it'll be a good idea. It'll be get people to come in and check out the innovation precinct.
It sounds like a lot of money to spend on something, especially when a lot of people don't follow sports, and it would feel like a waste of money to them.
Well, I think there could probably be better uses of money, I guess, in the long run.
Neighbours Duck Central are also unconvinced it's been well thought through. The Ducks General Manager Ross Herrick told me space in the Vanguard Square is limited for the numbers proposed, and he thinks managing the garden areas will be a huge task. Having run festivals and concerts himself, he thinks the fan zone could have been done differently. But others believe the council is on track.
I can't emphasise enough how important it is for us to have events, and we think it's great, and so the investment is well worth it.
What remains to be seen is if the fan zone can draw in the crowds. Tom Peterson, Metro News.
Umbrellas out, gumboots on and frisbees at the ready. You may not know this, but disc golf is a sport on the rise. Emily O'Connell catches the action at Victoria Park.
Victoria Park is usually the place for mountain bikers and families enjoying Sunday walks. But what about a game of frisbee golf?
It's played like traditional golf, but rather than a ball and clubs, we throw frisbees, and rather than a little hole in the ground, we have elevated baskets, elevated catching devices for our discs. And then there's a course that's all through here in Vic Park. There are 18 holes, and the idea is to complete that course in as few throws as possible.
The biggest battle is the weather.
This weekend it's been very wet. It's probably the best word to describe the weather today.
Challenging, absolute challenging. Feet are frozen. Everything's saturated, so it just saps your energy by the end of it.
Despite the relentless rain, spirits are high.
It's been fun. A little bit cold, a little bit rainy, but just good laughs. It's always fun playing tournament.
Oh, it's a really fun game, like everyone getting involved, like children to like the elderly really.
So, how popular is disc golf?
There are over 24 active members, I would say, in the club. Probably like 36 players around, though a lot of the players in this weekend of the 36 who are here, they come from as far away as Whangarei.
After a wet weekend competing, these disc golfers are warming up their hands with hot chocolates at a local pub. They're currently tallying up the scores to see who won this competition. Soon we'll find out the results.
No real surprises with the awards, except one competitor ranking himself a little too high.
Yeah, sorry, you weren't second as you put yourself down for.
Scores aside, some of these players are off to the world champs.
It's beautiful, beautiful game.
A beautiful game they hope will take flight. Emily O'Connell, Metro News.
Ever heard of YuGiOh? Well, it's a Japanese kids card game gone global, and Annabelle Keane went along to join the pack.
Tensions are running high. Just 4 of these competitors can make it through. YuGiOh started out as a Japanese comic 2 decades ago before becoming a card game. One of New Zealand's top players has been building his deck for years.
I started playing back at high school and things, and as they sort of fell away and I went to university and stuff, found like the local groups and the local gaming stores, and just absolutely just kept playing.
Put simply, YuGiOh is about dueling.
Summon a knight, slash them down with your sword, and then you get your trap cards, which are like sneaky cards you can play on your opponent's turn. So it's just all about like destroying your opponent's monsters and getting their life points down to 0.
Like myself, not everyone here is a YuGiOh veteran, but a few quick tips took me down memory lane.
So you start off with 5 cards. Now usually you'd start your turn by drawing 1 card, but because I'm going first, I don't get to draw a card.
Tonight's organiser sees many of these competitors at his vintage gaming and comic book shop.
It's obviously nostalgia. Some people played it at school or have played it growing up, but also people still like the kind of physicality of like touching cards and meeting up and playing in real life.
Despite the serious expressions and the timers counting down the seconds, some are just happy to enjoy a shared passion.
Everybody's always, helping each other, discussions. There's no sort of like bit of rivalries like you can sometimes find in sports competitions.
Just started playing it again about a year and a half ago, and yeah, it's just expanded from there. Spent my life savings here.
You've got a good community here, giving you a good challenge, and that's why I love it. It's a great game.
The top 4 will fight it out at the Oceanic Champs in July, with the winners taking on the world in London. Annabelle Keane, Metro News.
Lauren's here now with the weather. How's the rest of the week looking?
Not too good, Talia. It's going to be a bit of a chilly one. You might even want to dig your thermals out this week, especially overnight. Today has been a decent day for much of the country, with the sun popping up for most on the east coast. Christchurch woke up to a chilly 4 degrees, but we hit double figures with a high of 13.
We're expected to hit a low of 3 tonight, so you may want to turn your electric blanket on now. However, midday tomorrow will be warmer, 12 is the predicted high. South of Christchurch, cloud cover is expected for most. Ashburton manages to stay in positive figures overnight, but Twizel and Timaru, you're both in for a chilly -1. Further up the South Island, if you're planning on driving to work tomorrow, you may want to leave extra time for defrosting the car windscreen. Oxford, you're getting -1 overnight, but Kaikoura and Hamner, you manage to stay above 0. Unfortunately, things aren't looking up much for the rest of the week in Canterbury. We're looking at cloudy days and an average of around 11 degrees for the rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of your evening. That's all from me. Back to you, Talia and Joey.
Thanks, Lauren. And that's Metro News for tonight.
For those stories and more, head to our website, metronews.co.nz. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Join us again tomorrow night. I'm Talia Mamelo.
And I'm Joey Dwyer. Ka kite anō.